Good evening and welcome to Module 2 and into Module 3 of PQP Part 2. We're live here in Thunder Bay.
And we'd like to just take a moment to acknowledge that we're on the traditional territory of Animkey-Wajau, Fort William First Nation, and home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people in the region. So welcome.
Welcome. So Module 2, first I'd just like to talk a little bit about some of the technical difficulties for those of you who moved into Section G.
Thanks for sticking with us.
Yes, thanks to you for being patient, and we really appreciate those of you that were reaching out by WhatsApp and phone to let us know that there were problems. So what happened was, though we submitted the split course prior to the beginning of Module 2, the university was a bit backlogged in its tech work for the summer courses and did not get the actual coursework moved over, the actual people moved over until
Almost a week.
Yeah, and midway through Module 2. So Module 2.1, most of you had already submitted responses. Some of you already done Module 2.2 as well. Those responses reside still in Section E. They didn't move or F, excuse me, Section E or F, and they didn't move over to G, but we can see them. So we can read them, we know that you've completed them, and so you needn't worry that they've just gone into the Ethernet somewhere. They are in existence out there. So if you can just pick up from where you left off and move forward, that would be fabulous, and we hope to have no more technical glitches as we move forward through the course.
So in the course, under the, it's like at the top right hand side, there's a little section there that you can look at tools, and you can click on it to see how much of the course you've completed. Ideally, you see 100% by the end of it. For those of you who switch sections, you will not see 100%. You'll probably see about 86%. So do not worry about that. So we just want to put your mind at ease. I use old school pencil and paper and a notebook, and I check who writes what, and then who we responded to, and we put our assessments in the assessment piece. So you'll be able to see all your assessments in your new section, because there are no assessments that get recorded until about the end of Module 3, because some of the marks get combined with other things. So not to worry. We know it's a fast course. We're roughly 1 week per module. Plus a day, a week plus a day. So maybe by the beginning of June, you'll start to see some actual feedback of your assessment pieces.
And you're always welcome to go back in the modules. So just because we've moved to Module 3 and it's just opened yesterday does not mean that you have to stop and working in Module 2. No. You're welcome to go back, still respond, check responses. So.
And we have some people traveling in the course, and some people who might be offline because of where they reside in the world for a day or two. Not to worry. Yeah. Just when you get back in and get working on it again.
So Module 2 dealt with privilege, and we looked at it from a few different viewpoints. I think we have at least one post we'd really like to share. We appreciate you, the time and thought you've given to this topic. It can be a difficult one to discuss. It can be one that is complex as well, and that certainly was reflected in your responses.
So since we have 3 sections, we wanted to actually go through, and this was one of the ones that we read that I thought really spoke well, not just to the, the Peggy McIntosh piece, but really also about the state of the world affairs today. So this is from Hasim Habib. As I was reading through Peggy McIntosh's points regarding white privilege, I often felt myself thinking that the points brought up still have the right concepts, but they need to be expanded to include more. Quote, I can turn on the television or open the front page of the paper and see people of my race widely represented. I think this point is valid, but there are a few issues with it. The first is technology has changed, and thus this needs to be changed to include other media outlets like the internet and all that comes with it. The second issue is that being visible is not the same as being visible in a positive manner. For example, if black men are shown on the news all the time but are shown as criminals, it does not solve the problem. The third issue is that this original statement only assumes privilege based on race. It does not include religion, culture, gender, or anything else. A possible rewording could look like, I can turn on the TV, watch movies, open the front page of the paper, or open the main page of a new website and see people of my race, religion, gender, etc., widely represented in a positive way. And so I guess partly I'm thinking I have, and maybe in your community too, Pride Month is coming up. So Thunder Bay has a big diversity breakfast and a Pride week of almost 10 days of events around the community for families, adults, everyone in the middle. And so it's definitely something that I think, we think about, we've been following the news recently through the United States, certainly Thunder Bay also. And so wherever your community is in the world, probably these are things that you're thinking about all the time. And the bigger question is, what does this space become like in a school for your staff, for your families, for your parents and guardians in your community as they interact with your school?
And as a leader, this module is really asking you to look at where privilege resides, who has privilege, and how do we create equity by recognizing that there is privilege. And so and then how do you operationalize that? And you're going to be asked that to start thinking about that in Module 3 as we think about setting directions.
I had a chance to read, well, obviously, and everyone did, some of the practicums of those. Thank you for I call them the early birds, but the people that took that bull by the horn and put their modules, their practicums out for everyone to look at and engage with. And I noticed one of the themes in the ones I was reading was really about setting direction. And what does the role of a leader look like as you're setting a context or bringing an idea forward in a collaborative way with colleagues at your school. So I think the practicums, as we'll see, will certainly move forward, but it seems like I think every practicum has an element of setting direction in it as you attempt to bring your team together and really...
And more collaboratively.
Yeah, and head somewhere.
So that's coming up in Module 3. Though it did open yesterday, so some of you are already working in Module 3, and we appreciate that. We'll be looking at, setting directions. The first piece is creating a vision. You will note that this probably echoes a lot of what we read or listened to when we listened to Simon Sinek talk about leading from the why. So how you create a vision, what that looks like, how you communicate it, articulate it, those are really important pieces. I'll give you some resources that you can look through as you go forward.
There's some of the links here, and one of the key pieces, I guess, for the second one is looking at intentional interruptions with Stephen Katz. And we have the chapter link in there for you to have a look at. And then also looking at the collaborative inquiry, which I believe just finished in the province this past year of Ontario. And it was a 4 to 5 year, I guess 4 solid years with a 5th year of doing information sharing back and knowledge building around the First Nation, Métis, and Inuit focused inquiry. And the collaborative inquiry, I think at the time when we started that, was certainly maybe the second project that the ministry was doing, like provincially as a lead, and maybe the third, but it was kind of the early days of collaborative inquiry anyway. So we put a video link in there. That's part of the work that I had a chance to be part of at a provincial level, but then also within the school board. And I found it was really maybe the first time that as a province and within an organization on a very conscious level, we flattened out that leadership model. And what did that look like to turn the triangle into a flat circle? That's my visual image of what that looked like. So we hope that you enjoy some of that, and I think many of you are probably working in different ways in your schools through that model as one way of professional learning. Okay, anything else? Assessment. You're going to be...
We move into assessment as well. We start to examine that in the setting directions piece. We show you a bit of a video that gives you some thought processes and assessment. And one of the things I guess I would ask you to keep in mind as you go forward is the metrics of success that you or your school board or school systems or now the province use, and how that advantages or disadvantages certain populations. Because that's a real key piece if you're going to talk about creating a vision that's based on equity and inclusiveness or diversity, that celebrates our cultures, that looks or examines privileges and levels that playing field or flattens the circle, as Denise is saying. You've got to be really conscious about how then we measure success. And whether it's at an individual student level, whether it's in right now, most of you, if you're in 3 or 6 in elementary school, you're in EQAO right now. So that's an interesting metrics of success that you might be thinking about right now, and thinking about who does that privilege and who does it disadvantage, and how might you as a leader mitigate that. And so there's a lot of really intentional, thought-provoking questions coming up in the next piece about setting direction. So I really look forward to reading about your visions and your thoughts.
All right, so on that note, we are working right now to get a keynote speaker to come and do a Zoom session with us. So as soon as we know that, we'll let you know. We do try to give a minimum of 7 days lead time on that, and we do record it. So once we post that in the news, if you are unable to make that particular evening, normally it's evening at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Don't worry, we'll put the recorded link up in our news so you can have a look at that after the fact.
Okay.
So have a
Okay.
great week.
Enjoy.